Hello, this is my Newton's second law project. The three items I chose were a golf ball, a tennis ball, and get this, an egg. I learned that a golf ball weighs about a little over 1.5 ounces, and a tennis ball weighs about 2.10 ounces, and then last but not least, an egg weighs about 1.70 ounces. Okay, so with this information, I was able to learn that the golf ball weighs the least. It is the smallest, has the least amount of mass, which makes sense because when you hit it, you want it to go very far, and that the tennis ball weighs the most. So the kind of egg I used was a large egg, which gives us the measurement for the weight. So according to all this, we look at Newton's second law, which is basically stating that objects, when a same amount of force is applied, depending on its mass, will move differently. So, for example, I have a full water bottle and I have an empty water bottle. If I pushed them with the same amount of force, the empty water bottle would go farther because it is lighter than the filled water bottle. So with that in mind, I thought, okay, then the golf ball should go the farthest, then the egg, then the tennis ball. And how I applied my force was I took a golf club and I decided to hit each object with my best representation of equal amount of force. I might have hit it differently, I'm just human, I make errors, I am not a machine, so I could have applied more force to one object and lesser amount of force to a different object. But for the most part, I tried to keep it very consistent. And here was the results. So I started out with hitting the tennis ball, and I don't have the best hand-eye coordination, so I missed it the first time. But I got it the second time, and I got to go a decent distance, you know, not too far, but next up was the golf ball, and this one I was really predicting to go far, and luckily I hit it on the first try, and it actually did go a lot farther than the tennis ball. Just right away, I was really happy because I was like, oh, look at that, it worked. And I was also just wanted to point it out, make it a little more obvious. And then finally, we had the egg, which turned out very interesting. So, with the first time when I hit it, it missed, but the second time I hit the top part of the shell, and we ended up counting a little bit of shell that I got actually from that hit, but I just kept trying to get the majority of the egg to go. Didn't work too well, but like I said, the egg was a little difficult, and I did just keep hitting it, but I ended up using the little piece as a measurement. So after all this, my mom and I decided we need to measure with a tape measure, so we are first measuring the little piece of egg we found, which I accidentally kicked, so I had to just use where we figured it was about, so we figured it was about close to where the golf club was. And that ended up being about 172 inches. So after that, we had to go find the tennis ball. It wasn't too much farther away, but still a good amount, a little bit more. And in the end, the distance ended up being 232 inches. Finally, we had to do some math for the golf ball, so that ended up making it 472 inches. All this considered, think about Newton's second law again. The egg probably wasn't the best object to choose, but it made me and my mom laugh, and I didn't want to take this last project too seriously, personally. I wanted to do things that made me laugh, and that was definitely one of them. So even though the egg was lighter than the tennis ball, it didn't go as far because it didn't move as one little bit. It was kind of hard to measure it. Honestly, I thought it was going to splatter a lot more than it did, but you know, that's my bad hand-eye coordination. It's fine. I said it earlier. I'm not a machine. I'm not perfect. No one is. But if we don't consider that one, and we consider the two more solid objects, the heavier tennis ball and the lighter golf ball, we see which one went farther. We saw the lighter golf ball went farther it went 427 inches instead of the tennis ball that only went 232. Now if we do some quick math, because we're very good mathematicians, we find out that that is 195 inches farther, which is a lot. So it does prove that lighter objects go farther. Also, golf balls are meant to be hit with a golf club, so that probably helps too. That's why in the design, because they're meant to go farther, they were made smaller and lighter. Makes sense, because tennis balls aren't really necessarily meant to go very far. They're meant to go fast and be easy to hit when they're coming at you fast. That's why they're bigger. And because they're bigger, they move a little slower, but still quickly enough to make an interesting game. So that's what people have to consider. They have to consider Newton's second law when they're making things for like sports. It's actually really cool if you think about how much it plays into our everyday. So that is my Newton's second law. It is a very interesting law if you think about it. It affects us all the time, every day, just constantly and constantly over and over again. So yeah, that's my second law project. Personally, my favorite law. And I hope that everyone has an amazing summer and that we all continue to stay safe. Bye!